Hey, morning guys. It's Robert Timmons here, and I just heard this guy, Aubrey Marcus, speaking about something pretty deep. And I thought, I'd take you on a little journey, take you on a little story about me. Because maybe you have something inside you that I can help you kind of think differently. When I was younger, we grew up in a very rough area. We kind of grew into challenges as kids because our parents had to move to a place where it helped with income. It was a government income area, and a lot of single moms. There was, once in a while you may see, a father or something, but not always. It could be in and out of jail, for an example, or not even in the picture. Like my life, I had no father in my picture. There could be boyfriends that were causing, disturbance. We had a lot of noise and a lot of external issues that had to happen. And when you're young, it's fight or flight, which is our mentality, anyways. But it's either you're going to be standing your ground or you're going to be getting the fuck out of there. And a lot of us, we may have had times where we battled within ourselves, but we were brotherhood outside of that. And I'm speaking about the warrior, the external warrior right now. This is the person that we had to become, because that's kind of where we were. There was no one really teaching us how to think differently, how to move differently, how to deal with things differently. We knew that we had to stand our ground on things. We had to show our warrior side, our external side, and this could have got us. This probably got us into a lot of trouble, but also kept us out of a lot of trouble if you think about it in some ways. Now, of course, all of us who were there at that time went on different paths, did different things, and maybe some aren't even here today because of those paths and those choices that they made. But as we went on, we all kind of went on our own direction, and I struggled with getting my high school. Funny enough, a guy who loves to learn, I have built myself up pretty high in a lot of areas. But by no means do I feel I'm where I want to be. And that's why I'm still striving and still moving and still making things happen. And, I look back at kind of like what happened. Why didn't I get that 4 years of high school the way everybody else did, or 5 years, And it was because of my attitude. It was because of this external warrior aspect that I had. Even though I was changing things without realizing it, I was making decisions to stop things, I still was constantly being kept in this winding wheel, this hamster spinning wheel consistently that we talk about, where I was trapped in a cloud that I grew up in, and I was constantly by my own self struggling to get out of that cloud, to see more of what was ahead of me. And I quit school because, hey, we strive to be 16 so we can quit school. That was like a goal we had as kids because we hated school so much. We hated authority so much that that was a goal. In most households, you help your children get goals to accomplish high school. You help them, to think further into college, university. Well, I didn't have that. We didn't have that. We didn't have anybody, to really, I can only speak for myself, but the role models we had were far in between. There was really nothing around. Like, my mother worked 4 jobs just to keep 3 children fed. 4 jobs. So when did I see my mom? Not too often, unless we went to visit her at her the restaurant she worked at, and we would get food. Or she worked at a gas station, and we would go and just make sure she was okay, and because she would do nights and stuff. she'd go from one job to another job to another job, and she loved it. That was her busy work. That was what she enjoyed, but it worked for us. It kept us, fed. It kept us with clothes. So when I think about, when I look back at how I got to where I am today, there was a lot of challenges. So going back to that external warrior, I had to step up to a lot of people because I'm 5 foot fuck all, as they would say. I'm just a short little guy that, I did a lot of working out because you knew when you were in that kind of position of life, external strength, courage, fearless, that stuff is either you got it or you're gone. And I made sure I stepped up to all that shit. I had no fear in a lot of things. I had courage to stand up and help, underdogs, for an example, against bullies. I felt that there was more of a challenge, that more of a growth within me to stand up for that person being picked on. To be that person and stand right up and just to see what that bully, did. Because they're not used to being stood up to. And I felt kind of like adrenaline from that. And like I said, we're talking about the external warrior because that is what we are all about. Most of us are external warriors. We're about our shell and what people think of us and how we act and stuff. And that pattern was very tough. And it's tough for you, I'm sure. The things that you're going through, because when you think more of the external part, you're thinking more of how you're looked upon. You're thinking more of what people see you as, because that's what you're thinking about. You're thinking about your external looks, your external actions, how you dress, for an example, it could be, how you wear your hair. What are you doing? What job do you have? What position are you doing? Where are you going? These are all external things that sometimes we put more energy into that than anything. And when I listened to this or Aubrey Marcus was his name, being interviewed, he talked about the warrior ethos. And I just kind of did a quick search. There's kind of like a warrior code. Now, I didn't read the codes exactly, but from what that Aubrey was saying was, the warrior can be external, right? And that is exactly what I've been talking about. All this external stuff, all these challenges that you meet up with and how you face them, how you, stand there and stand your ground against them and you really pull whatever's inside you out. But then the warrior can also be internal. And I think I was 19 when I started to realize I had these grudges and these real deep poisonous feelings. And it's like I hated, but I didn't know why I hated. I scared people, but I didn't want people to be scared of me. There was times that I fought so much. I fought on weekends. I fought every time I was around things that people didn't want me around anymore. People didn't want me to go to their parties. I wasn't invited to things because when we showed up or I showed up, they knew there was going to be a fight. That was the attitude I had back then, and that was the reputation I was gaining. And when I started to make that decision to change that, and I started thinking internally, I started to think, this doesn't feel good. It seriously didn't feel good. And I started to, find people that were afraid of me. I know that it may sound funny, but it actually wasn't cool to have people afraid of you. It did my service as a young kid to get that reputation, so I didn't have to fucking deal with their shit anymore. There's a lot of fucking, angry people and a lot of fucking good fighters around and stuff. And you had to, be known that if you fuck with that guy, he's going to step up to you. That you are going to have a battle, and that it's not going to be one-sided. You're not going to come in and just take control of the situation. And I tell you, when you step up and you do that, it's such a growth within you, and you see things, how things change. And so when I started around 19, I believe is my turning point, I started to really think inside, the inner warrior in a sense, where I started to challenge things of what I was doing and to try to change things because I wanted to be fucking happy. I wanted to, at that time, I wanted to get my high school. I wanted to give my mom my grade 12 in a sense. That was my thoughts. That was my goal. That was my why. I wanted to give my mom my grade 12. And like I said, it took me 9 years. My first year of high school, I skipped 7 months of school on and off. I was taken off onto buses and going out into different cities, and I was gone for 2-3 weeks at 13 years old. I couldn't even imagine my own child doing that right now. But I did it because a friend of mine moved out of the freaking city I lived in, and I was like, I'm going to see this guy, and I'm going to go stay at his house, and I'm going to be there. And, those things, you look back and you think, wow, I learned a lot from that stuff. So at 19, I had that change. By 21, I went back to school and I did it. I graduated, with a lot of challenges, mind you, with fighting and girlfriends and bullshit like that. But, I got that grade 12. And I was able to move into college. College, I screwed up a lot. I was drinking, and there was a whole bunch of crap. And college, I stretched on too, because there was habits that I had that I just couldn't, get rid of. Those habits were so powerful that I had to keep changing and keep changing and keep changing and keep changing to get myself out of that cloud. That cloud I grew up in, it stayed with me for a long time. It gave me, a lot of growth, externally, but it didn't give me a lot of growth internally. Those things, there was no one there. I had to learn myself. So by learning that, it took years and years of just taking pieces out and adding pieces in and understanding where I was going. I knew that I wanted something different. I knew that I wanted to travel. I knew that I wanted to leave my city. But I felt I needed this foundation. I needed this knowledge. I needed this paper, this grade 12. But then when I got my grade 12, I thought that was like the fucking best. I thought, all right. And then I still couldn't get a job. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't even get a job at the McDonald's that was near us. They wouldn't even accept anybody from our neighborhood unless, you found a way around it and you can get out. But no, because we tormented them, right? We tormented them. We had fights over there in the parking lots. We treated them like crap. So, I just kept thinking, okay, well, grade 12 is not good enough anymore. I finally made this mountain, and it's not enough. So that's why I went to college. I said, screw it. I'm going to be the first kid in my family to go to college, and I'm going to freaking do this. And I failed the first year, and I failed the second year. And I'm serious. I failed within a month or two because I wasn't prepared for what I was doing. I knew what I wanted. I was making good marks in high school near the end. I was getting honor rolls. I was getting 95s. I was taking things that I wasn't used to doing, and I was doing it. But college was different. College was, you had a bar in college. You had a whole bunch of things happening. You had to be there. You were paying for it. It wasn't that you were just told legally you got to be there. No, you had to put your money down and make it happen. Maybe the difference here was I was given the money. Maybe that was the difference, because sometimes when you're given something, you don't work as hard for it. And I think about that now, it took me 4 to 6 years, I think. I went through three different, I did electrical engineering, I believe. Then I did chemical engineering twice. Did I do that twice? Yeah. And then I went into, the chemical got me, at least through the first one. And then I went towards the environmental. Then I left there and went and actually I think I was shy 2 credits from getting one out of another college. Then I went back to that college. Like, see what I mean? Like, I'm just bouncing and bouncing. I had no foundation, no way to say, keep moving this, stay focused, just keep going. I never stopped. I never stopped until I did graduate. I finally graduated. And it was actually the year 2000. April of the year 2000, I got my diploma. And I was able to finally use that to get, Jesus, any job I could almost. Like I felt the confidence to push, and I was stepping outside that cloud now. And I started to feel that I had something, and I was able to really move further towards my goal of traveling, goal of getting out of the city. And I actually got a job outside my city. So I was driving back and forth and finally got a place near my job. First time actually getting out of the house and getting my own place. And it felt so good. It felt really good. And then things just kept moving on from there. But when you really start working on the internal warrior, that's where it's truly magical, and that's where you really show yourself that when these things come in, these challenges come in, that you step up to the plate and you make those challenges happen. When you see 4 years, 5 years ahead and you're still screwing up, don't stop. You're learning. Keep moving forward. Don't ever give up. Just keep going. Yeah, it took me 9 years to get my high school. It took me 6 years to get my 2-year diploma. 2-year diploma. 9 years to get my 4-year, high school. 6 years probably to get my 2-year diploma. And it's like, I didn't give a fuck. I did it. I accomplished it. Those were 2 major things in my life at that time, was those 2 paper, that stated that I accomplished something, that I was successful in completion of something. And they allowed me to move forward and keep moving forward to all these other challenges. I'm not going to sit here and tell my whole life story. There's a lot in it. But I really wanted to talk about the warrior part. Really wanted to talk about, when you have those fears within you, we tend to think the fears are negative, that we should be running from those fears because they're bad for us. It's those fears that made me move forward. It's those fears that made me step up to people. It's those fears that gave me, that I found courage. It's those fears that I was able to really see my goals be accomplished and my dreams come closer and closer. Your dreams are always going to be there, and they're always going to change as you move. And every decade of your life is a new experience and a new growth and a new mindset. And the more you find this stuff, the better you get, and the more exciting life becomes. So when I look back at all that, and I look back at that, and I listen to the words from this Aubrey Marcus, and it was about the warrior, the warrior ethos, the actual stuff that a warrior is made of. But you reverse and internalize that. When you start attacking, the things that are trying to change you, or tell you, like we have that mind that is always trying to say, you're not good enough. You're not going to do it. Why don't you just sit down? Why even bother? Let's do it later. It starts procrastinating and starts telling you things. That's when you need to take that warrior that you have, not the external. The external doesn't do a lot for you. It helps, but it's when you start really tackling it inside. That's when you start freeing and creating light within yourself. I'm not talking about religious stuff. I'm really talking about, when you hold on to things, it's dark. It's hate. It's brutal. But when you start, turning inside and tackling those things and stepping up and getting courage to stand in front of those fears that you feel are negative to your life, and you decide that they're just guiding me to where I need to go. And you change your mindset on that. And your warrior steps up and, faces those fears. That's when it's really, really impressive. And, you just keep moving forward, and your body starts, feeling lighter and lighter. And, you start saying, my shit's coming together now. Things are moving forward. I'm coming closer to where I want to be. And you start loving yourself along the journey. Not, if I make it there, I'll love myself. If I make it here, I'll love myself. It's that sound. If I have $1 million, I'll do this. Do it now. Love yourself now. Love yourself on your journey. Be your own, mentor at times, and pat yourself on the back. Tell yourself you're doing freaking amazing every day. You wake up and continually do the thing you want to get towards. That's the journey that you need to love yourself for. Because when you step up to the plate and you fucking throw away that procrastination, and you throw away that self-doubt, and you stop listening to the freaking, the peanut gallery, and you start listening to what you want and internalize it, and you start becoming that internal warrior to start battling those fears and those anxieties and those depressions, that you start, standing up for yourself, and you start saying, listen, we're getting over that wall right now. That's when things are going to really, really impact your life. Okay, guys, I'm going to let that go right now, and I really thank you for listening, and I hope that helps somebody, because it feels good to get that out. Talk soon.